So what are you up to today, Maureen?
I want to show you and explain to you why I use straw and why I use wood chips for my paths and for all around my garden.
In the style of using permaculture, one of the things is to not disturb the soil. So I do add in soil, but I'm not digging in deep and disrupting the networking of the microbes that have established themselves in the soil. So I'm just leaving them alone.
So this area is my front boulevard, which is right next to the street here. And as you can see, I have wood chips everywhere covering the ground.
Until I turned this all into a garden, I used to just get the joy of mowing the weeds all through the summer. And this is a real great spot because the sun rises up over there and goes to bed over there. So this area is in the sunshine all day. So because it is street side, I keep to growing things that deer and rabbits won't eat. So my squashes, my garlic, my potatoes, I can grow onions out here. Well, if I could successfully grow an onion or two, but that verdict is still kind of iffy. But the great thing with the wood chips is that it's keeping the moisture in and under the ground. On the ground, I do have some areas that do have landscape fabricant. Not that I really recommend it, but for the amount of grass and bindweed that I was trying to suppress, we needed to put that down on top of it. And I do need to get a new load of wood chips from the tree pruners. And as you can see, like that is all bindweed that's there. Even though I do have garden cloth down, it is still coming up. And I will get around to either pulling it or I will just be getting some new wood chips down. But you really want the wood chips, that's actually going to keep the moisture and keep the ground intact. So anything that dies off, it is feeding the soil that's underneath, which is connected to all the grow bags and all my raised beds that are here. And the great thing with wood chips is that you can get those for free. You simply contact your tree pruning service and let them come and dump. And we put wood chips everywhere in our yard, including the back where my chickens are. And basically for them, it keeps the ground dry, they turn it over, and then it ends up turning into beautiful soil for me to add to my gardens. Now this here is an incline, and I have coffee sacks on it because the bindweed is so bad, and I wanted to suppress it so that as my pumpkins and my watermelons, as they start to cascade down, they won't be getting choked by all of this bindweed. When my tree service delivers my wood chips, then I will recover over top. I'll probably just leave the coffee sacks. Now, does this look so nice? No, it's not the prettiest looking thing, but it serves its purpose. And these coffee sacks I get from a local coffee ground company called Level Ground Coffee Company. And they sell them for very cheap. And this last batch, they actually gave them all away. These are actually older ones that I have used. And I do cover all my winter gardening with them to protect the soil from any weed seeds dropping through the winter season and to keep the ground intact. And now my potato patch. All of those potatoes are grown in straw, and I just love straw or hay. This will be my 4th year of growing potatoes in this potato patch. And every year I do bring in composted manure soil in the fall to start, and then I do cover it with the straw. Do the no-dig style of gardening with my potatoes, and it is called the Ruth Stout method, and it's fantastic. So if I was going to be planting my potatoes, I've got quite a bit of straw, but basically my method of doing it is that I would dig a little hole just down to the surface, plop the potato in, and then cover it back up. So there was no digging that was involved. And then when it's time to harvest them, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to push the straw over to the side and pick up all the potatoes, and they're basically almost clean when you harvest them. Again, there's no dig when you plant and there's no dig when you harvest them. It is a simple and easy way to do it. The straw method, again, it's a water saver because through the winter it's collecting the water, really keeping that water down, and then I'm not having to water it as often because water does get to be expensive. And so I'm able to just every few days come and hand water all of my gardens because I'm using straw or hay. And the bales, they can get expensive, but I was super blessed by finding somebody whose horse didn't like the type of hay they bought. So she brought me over 7 bales. And so that's what I've been covering my garden with. But I know that you can find places where you can get either spent straw or hay or just something that the horses or the animals don't like, and you can actually use it. And I use it all over my gardens. And every year I just keep adding more to it so that we're really keeping that permaculture down, and I'm not disturbing the soil. I can add soil in, but I'm not digging and breaking the networking that's going on underground. Again, back to the straw bales. These are great. I'm growing these right actually in the straw bales, and it is just a fantastic way to grow. They're up higher. There's very few weeds that get in there. Now, granted, because this is actual hay, there is some seeds in there and they will sprout, but they're super easy. They just pluck out if you're so inclined to have to pull them out. But again, this is a great way where I don't have to water, because the water stays deep inside each of the straw bales and keeps the roots warm, and also as it's breaking down, it's continuing to feed all of the plants. Lastly, this is my compost tea bin, or as I like to call it, poo-poo juice. So I just have added in some extra bindweed into it. So this is just a great big black Costco tub with the yellow lid. I think they're now, you can get red lids on them. And I just fill it up with my weeds and let it just kind of stew to make my compost tea. And you can put any sort of weed in there. You know, you want some of the green, some of the brown. Straw doesn't do so well in breaking up in it. When you make your compost tea, you're going to get a really great balance of your nitrogen and your carbon to feed all of your plants and all your garden. And that again is free fertilizer that you're making yourself. Now, granted, make sure you use gloves with it because it is pretty smelly. I put my compost tea on directly, full strength, and then I come by and I water everything just to help break it up. You can extract some of the tea and put it in a watering can and add water to it, but I just find that this method works fine for me in my garden. So just to recap, the things that I'm doing in this permaculture style of gardening is using free wood chips. Sometimes I get free straw bales. I'm putting the straw down everywhere I can in the garden because that again is going to not allow the water to evaporate. It's going to also keep that soil nice and cool, suppress the weeds down, and help me to save on watering my plants. For myself, like I pay for water that comes in and some of the water that goes down the drain. And I don't find that through the summer that my water bill increases exponentially just because I am watering all of my garden. And using the no-dig style of gardening so that I'm not disturbing the soil. So when you are growing in your urban homestead, you'll be able to have some great successes. Now I know I mentioned about the garden cloth, and one of the reasons why garden cloth is not so much the best. It is good for suppressing weeds and keeping things down, but years ago, I had garden cloth with all my shrubs in here. And now the garden cloth, it does suppress those weeds, and that's what we really want it to do. But I put wood chips on top. Now they're gonna break down, and as they break down and turn into soil, that's gonna continue to feed all of my shrubs that are in here behind me. And the garden cloth is actually, it's gonna let moisture through, let rain through, but it's not gonna let all of those nutrients through. So we lifted up all the garden cloth that was under my shrubs and we put coffee sacks. And the great thing with coffee sacks is that they will break down over time. And then we covered all of the coffee sacks with the wood chips. So we're going to be able to keep the moisture in for all the shrubs, as well as the coffee sacks and the wood chips are breaking down, my shrubs are all going to be able to be fed, and I'm not doing a thing. I just do the initial supply and then just let nature take care of it. On the next video, what I want to talk about is just how I stagger some of my plants just so that I get maximum square footage for all of the plants that I'm growing. Even though this is just a typical city lot, so that I'm utilizing the sunlight and also doing some companion planting. I hope you're having a great day wherever you are. I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Take care. God bless.